all right?
Yeah.
I like the skinhead look. Which one do you want?
Yeah, I'm not. United Red, yeah.
United Red.
It's like the skinhead,
Do you know what? Yeah, I like
My
it.
fight cut, this.
Is it?
So I used to have my hair shaved when I was fighting, but then everyone thought I was bald. But I'm not.
Why did you cut your hair off for fights?
Because I was in like fight mode. So
I like it.
But then when I retired, it was like Superman and Clark Kent. So I just went into Clark Kent mode and just grew it all. You know what I mean? But then every now and again, so I was talking in the gym this week, and a few of them was taking a piss at me, saying, you'll have to take your hair off soon because he's going a bit thin and stuff like that. So I said fuck off, like, but then they said, well, you know what, it suits you because
it does suit you.
When I think it was Chantel for Katie Taylor,
yeah,
she asked me, she went, shave it off fight mode, so I did.
Mode.
And then now we're going into this fit. I said to Pat, I said, you know what, I'm getting it shaved off fight mode this week.
You've been training yourself as well. I've noticed that you're looking a bit trim. What you doing?
Yeah. No, I've just been training. I got on the scales at, so I used to fight at super welterweight, so 11 stone. And then obviously was in between fights, was like 12 and a half, going up to 13 stone. And then end of October, I got on the scale. I've been away, long weekend away, and got on the scales. I was 14 and a half stone.
No way.
Never been that heavy in my life, and I went, nah, sack this. So I just started training a bit more, just eating healthy, going back to some of my old habits, and then before I knew it, I was back down to 13 stone.
Once a fighter, always a fighter, right?
I'll be all right.
It don't leave you, does it?
Do you know what? It's just, I got pissed off with myself, that's what it is, and it just like kicked something in, and I thought, you know what? I'm getting old now, man. I'm like 46 years old, and I thought, if you don't start looking after yourself a bit better now, as time goes on, before you know it, you won't be able to do anything about it. So,
and I agree, especially with this month, and you know, rest the souls of those that we've lost. But this month has literally been like,
do you know what
people
I mean?
just literally leaving us.
Exactly,
I get it. Everyone's
exactly,
up in age, but it's still a shock when you're here.
It's coming to us all, but if we can try and put it off a little bit and just look after ourselves a bit better, why not?
Absolutely. But once again, it is the Jamie Moore Show.
Yeah?
Three fighters.
sorry. Thought you meant this here now, right?
No.
Yeah.
3 fighters.
Yeah, no. Listen, we're blessed. We've got a gym full of good fighters. We had 4 out last time. Pat Brown's debut, Cameron, and Connor Tudsbury. So yeah, busy night, but no, we're here for it all.
Got to talk about, you know, Pat Brown. Look, his debut.
Yeah.
And his headlining. What I liked about what he said then is every time you like get down to the fight, because every time in the future you drive past Altrincham Ice Rink, that's where it's going to be.
Yeah.
That will be where my debut was. And I like that attitude. It was like, I don't need arenas. I don't need, you know, all of this. I'm starting there, and I like that.
He's an old
attitude.
school throwback fighter. That's exactly why people like him. You know, he's no airs and graces about him. He doesn't really like all the media type stuff, even though he's good at it and he knows how to do it and navigate it. It's just not for him. He's just there for the fighting side of it. And I think over the years, as time goes on and more people see him, people are really going to take to him. You know, he's got that sort of magnetic type of personality where he just attracts people to him. Handsome kid, can really talk, can really fight, and it's going to be a great journey.
Do you guys feel, I know it sounds so cliche, but there's a lot of hype around him. I never forget the media, you know, when he just started and the promo was there with him running and all the graphics, the visuals, and I'm like, wow, look at this for Pat.
Of course.
That pressure, and
Big
I know
pressure.
it's like I said, it's a cliche word, but
do
you guys feel it? I know you can't speak on his behalf, but what about you guys?
Listen, I feel like, well, there's 2 sides to it. So Pat, I feel like he's got the type of temperament which is made for dealing with that type of pressure, because he doesn't want it. He doesn't want the limelight. You know, there's a lot of fighters who are real good fighters, but they want to be famous. They want to be well known. They want to
Instagram fighters,
3-weight undisputed world champion and stuff like that. Everyone wants that. Pat just seems to be one of those old throwback fighters where he just wants to fight and he wants to achieve what he can achieve. He doesn't have any massive ambitions. He just wants to fight. And it's that rawness, I think, what people buy into and like about him. He doesn't... Recently, I've real sort of got a negative on social media. I understand the value of it, but there's so many negatives as well. And it puts so much unneeded pressure on people, usually created by the self, going, I'm going to put myself in the public eye And now I've put a load of pressure on myself to keep doing it. Like, I'm trying to stay off there as much as I can, even though I've realised myself there's like a type of addiction to it. That flipping dopamine scrolling addiction. And I'm trying to get away from it. I genuinely try to get away from it. Pat's not like that at all. You may as well have dragged him out of the 90s. And
Nice.
Yeah, you know, he's that type of kid. Doesn't pay attention to social media. Just concentrates on himself. Does his best. He's not bothered about what other people think. He's only concerned about what the people around him think and what he believes in himself. And I just think it's a beautiful place to be.
Even though he does that, he still sells tickets. He still has a lot of eyes on him.
Why he sells tickets.
And it's almost, even like I said, he doesn't.
You can read people like a book nowadays.
Yeah, you can.
People who want to be social media influencers, or they want to be boxers and they want to try and use the social media influencer sort of skeleton to try and build a career around that. He's not doing it like that. Other people are doing it on his behalf, but he's not doing it like that. People can see that he's built different, and I think that's why people are attracted to him or sort of intrigued by him, because he's not doing it like everyone else is doing it at the moment.
How does he do it? How does he draw that audience in? Look, when the launch was there, he's got 600 people at a launch.
You'll never, I don't think you'll ever be able to put your finger on why. Look at Ricky Hatton. You didn't know why. Obviously, he could really fight, but there was loads of fighters who could really fight. It's just that likability factor, the relatability. So the vast majority of people like us off council estates who've been brought up, or maybe not so much nowadays, but your dad took you in the pub and he was around all the things and they was all playing cards around the table.
The British culture.
And you could associate to someone. So an athlete, you didn't really be able to associate to him. It seemed unrealistic that you could do that. But then you see Ricky Hatton doing a promo on Sky Sports, stood in a pub having a pint. And the vast majority of people across the country
it's relatable.
I can relate to him.
Right.
I feel like that's what Pat is. Pat's the kid who you feel like off a council estate you can relate to him. He's like the lad next door.
And what is he like to train?
It's hard work. My elbows and my wrists and my shoulders are fucking killing. But a joy to have around.
Is he?
Like the rest of the lads in the gym. We're so lucky in the sense that we've got a gym full of real nice, genuine, good people who we have a laugh, but we absolutely graft when we need to. And I feel like me and Nige as a combo, we're just able to create a good atmosphere and get the best out of the fight is what we've got.
Beautiful combination. I've got to speak about Conor Tudsbury's debut. Like I said, I said to you last time, he's a fighter that one of the first interviews that I did as an amateur, and he turned to a pro. So to see him,
it's nice journey,
break through, I was so happy. And he got the stoppage as well, which is even better.
Of course, it's the icing on the cake for him.
How was he?
Listen, he was a bit nervous.
And he's honest about that.
Exactly. And everyone, if you're not nervous, I did an interview yesterday about my debut relating to Pat's. And I was talking about I was so nervous, more nervous for my debut than I was for any other fight what I had. So, because everything's brand new. First time having your hand wrapped. First time without a head guard on for me. So, like, for Conor, a massive occasion. But now he's settled, I think you'll see the best of him. Nice and relaxed. He's a huge puncher, naturally.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
But he's got a real good skill set. He's been on the GB program for many years. Nigel's coached him from being a young kid, so he's got very good fundamentals. He's got a real awkward style, but this fight for him, I believe, he's going to be, he's not going to have it all his own way. Robbie Connor's a decent, well-schooled fighter, but Conor, that power, he's got like that sort of equalizer, as soon as generally, even in sparring, as soon as he starts to land, you can see people like, whoa, fucking, he can really, really punch. So I'm excited for his journey as well.
Listen, I'm excited for the whole gym, and like I said, what's really weird? Cameron Vuong fighting Jordan Flynn.
Yeah.
Because it's been made and then unmade and this, that.
Seems like it's been going on for ages.
It was a flipping rematch.
Yeah.
In my head, I thought they'd already fought. I thought they'd already fought.
Yeah. I wish he had. I wish he had. Been going on too long.
Too long. Talk to us about that, and a little bit about like Cameron Vuong, what's happened with him in his last fights. He's had some tough tests.
Mate,
he's never turned down a fight.
Think about it.
He's had some tests.
Think about where that lad is at after 7 fights. Like, no one's moved as quick as him. He deserves a lot more respect for where he's at for the little bit of time he's been in this sport. And you haven't, unless there's someone from Olympian or from GB who's turning over at 26, 27, and they're moving quick. No one's done it at 20 years old. You know,
He's still a baby.
Very, very young when he turned pro, and he fought Gavin Gwynn, an ex-European champion, in his 7th fight. No one's moving that quick. And it was a close fight, which could have gone either way. I believe he won it by a round. I'll go to my grave saying that. But if it had gone the other way, I wouldn't have complained. It was one of those fights which could have gone either way. I said this about Dave Allen. It was a close fight with Johnny Fisher. I believe we won, but it could have gone either way. So, and then we do it again. Down the line, Cameron will fight Gavin Gwynn again, and we'll do it again. But this fight for him is just, it's been created by them sort of just slagging each other off.
Yeah, the social media.
It wasn't really from a boxing point of view. And then they've just gone, well, let's fight each other. So I'm glad it's got to the point where they're doing it, so we can get it out of the way. Because I just believe that Cameron's a better fighter. I'm not saying I believe that Jordan Flynn's a bad fighter. I just think Cameron's a better fighter. He's got more experience now, especially after going through that experience with Gavin Gwynn.
And Jeff Foury.
Yeah, exactly. And standing him in better stead. Listen, put it this way. Jordan Flynn, you put Jeff Foury in with Jordan Flynn, I think Jeff Foury wins. Like, that is not an easy fight. And
it isn't.
We took that fight on short notice again because the opponent changed because Jordan Flynn fell out. So he's been match tough. And he's got a lot of experience under his belt now. But
then when you say about, do you think he, like you said, match tough, last minute opponents, do you think he's been rushed? Do you think you could have took your time with him a little bit more?
Listen, we could have, but then you end up with, and it's not an easy task. You either undermatch him, and then they go, I'm the next coming of Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Because Cameron's that talented that if you'd have undermatched him, he'd have got a false sense of where he's really at.
Security, yeah.
Well, he would have believed he was better than he is. No, I'm not saying he's not a good fighter, but he would have thought, started blasting people out of there, and he can punch, but he's not a massive puncher like I would say Pat Brown or Conor Tudsbury. But he can still punch, but then you start blasting journeyman away, and you start getting a false sense of where you're really at. Whereas now he's probably under-ebbing where he's at.
Okay,
but now he's more focused and determined to beat someone like Jordan Flynn than he probably would have been if he'd have not struggled in the last couple of fights. But the lessons he's got on board are massive compared to what he would have got if it had been an easy fight.
I would like to say a well done for the shape that you got Dave Allen in. Listen, I've watched him fight from the beginning. Yeah. I haven't seen him look like that in a very, very long time. You made him get out of bed.
He was 50-60%. And I've just said this in a different interview. Johnny Fisher's going to come better for the same reasons I've just said about Cameron. He's going to come better because of the experience of the first fight. But I promise you, Dave's coming better because he realises now, when he trains properly, what he can do.
His capability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jack, we've got to speak about Jack. I was there on Twitter saying, I like the way he's composed, how he starts. That's how he starts off. And then I'm thinking, hold on a minute. I think he needs to put his foot on the gas now. And I started panicking, and I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Which I tried to rally him. Hindsight's great, innit?
Of course it is.
And the only thing I can think of, or can put it down to, is maybe a bit of mental fatigue, because when you look at what he did over a 12-month period, that Josh Taylor rematch was emotionally, physically a huge thing.
Okay.
And it was an extended training camp because Josh got injured. He went straight into training camp for Prograis. That was an extended training camp because Jack got injured. So both of those training camps, instead of being 10 weeks, was like 16 to 18 weeks. Then he went straight into training camp again for Barboza because it got made for the interim world title. So he had no break in between. So it wasn't as Jack's always training. I don't think it was as much physical fatigue, more mental fatigue. Okay. And those last 3 or 4 rounds, where he had that extra gear to go when the shit hit the fan with Prograis and it was close going into round 8, he could go. And I feel like he just hit a brick wall in that fight. And in all honesty, I don't think any of them performed particularly well. I don't think Barboza performed particularly well. And when I look at it, I just think Jack was flat, and he's way better than that, and he knows he is. And I feel like if he boxed him again, for a fresh start, without all that sort of fatigue building up into it, he'd perform way better.
I said to myself, I bet at the end of that fight, when he looks back on it in reflection, he'll be kicking himself, because I agree with you. It's like he hit brick wall and it was just flat.
And exactly. And listen, you can't dwell on these things because it's done now. It's in the past.
Yeah.
All he wants to do is get in there as soon as he can and just forget about it, put it in the past, and move on to bigger fights.
Listen, Jamie Moore, thank you for your contribution to boxing as a fighter.
Oh, thank you.
I think, no, I'm going to start doing this. We need to give people their flowers when they're here, because tomorrow, you know, you could be gone. Not I'm wishing that on it, but you know what I mean.
No, you see what's happened this week with obviously George Foreman and Colin Hart, and it makes you realise, makes you, you know, you're only a human being, and you're here for a blink of an eye, and before you know it's all done. So thank you, appreciate it.
No, we do. We
were talking with
appreciate
Adam Smith actually before about stuff like that, because
he had his own health scare.
Yeah, exactly. And then what happened to me in Marbella, 10.5 years ago, like, when you experience things like that, in a weird way, the worst thing what happens to you becomes the best thing, because every day you wake up, you feel blessed.
Your mindset's different.
And you don't wish it on anyone, but if you can come through the other side of it with that type of mindset, I swear to you, the rest of your life's a blessing.
What a positive note to end on. Listen, Jamie Moore, thank you so much for your time. I'll see you Friday night, and all the best.
Thank you.
Running in and out of corners.
Be a sweaty one.
People say I'm toxic, and honestly, I don't care.